Thank you, Chairman, for allowing me to be a member of the committee. I've always wanted to be, and I'm glad to fulfill that promise today. For the record, I, as has already been noted, have had an opportunity to have a lot of experience with Mr. Feinberg. And while there's been effusive praise and at times even sympathy for the task he's been assigned, I would remind everyone that Mr. Feinberg's firm is paid $1.4 million a month. I believe that's correct.
No.
How much?
1.250.
Okay. 1.25. Thank you.
I just lopped off 150,000.
Well, regardless, it's a generous amount of money to administer this, and while it is a complicated process, and I think Mr. Feinberg has realized that it is even more complicated than the 911 fund in many ways with 1 million claimants, it is not a perfect system. If anything, it is a very flawed system. And so many promises have been made by Mr. Feinberg himself to people who live along the Gulf Coast, not just in Alabama, but in Louisiana and Mississippi and Florida and Texas. So many broken promises, unfortunately. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here, but I will obviously have more questions than there will be time for. And I would like to ask, I mentioned this to the chairman, if Mr. Feinberg has no objection, I'd like to invite the people who live along the Gulf Coast to take advantage of this time where we traditionally have 5 days to submit additional questions for the record that Mr. Feinberg would respond to. I'd like to give the people who live in Alabama a chance, who've met with you before at town meetings and who were promised certain things and they didn't get those promises fulfilled. Would you have any objection to letting us get those questions and submit it to you?
No objection. I would welcome it.
Good. Thank you. A couple questions. Vice President Biden said the $20 billion is a floor, not a ceiling. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Let's just round it up, $6 billion. How much do you think you will actually, before August of 2013, based on the trends you have seen thus far, how much do you think you will exhaust?
I would be reluctant, Congressman, to take an estimate at that. But I remind you, as you know, that $20 billion is used for purposes other than the Gulf Coast Claims Facility. Local cleanup costs come out of the $20 billion. Government claims that are being paid in Alabama by BP comes out of the $20 billion. So I can't venture a guess as to how much the total amount will be that will be spent. I would like to think that the $20 billion would be adequate to compensate eligible claims, but BP has made it clear that if $20 billion is not enough, they will honor all additional financial obligations.
You also indicated that you were independent of BP. Your quote in July of 2010, "I work for the people of the Gulf region. That's who I work for. I am totally independent," although the federal judge has now questioned that. "I want to try and maximize as much compensation as I can do fairly and consistently to the people I'm trying to serve down there." Do you still stand by that statement?
I do indeed.
But does BP not have the final say on these large settlement claims? Do they not have to approve or disallow those claims?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. What BP can do under the protocol, if it so desires, for claims that are overpaid by the GCCF in amounts in excess of $500,000, they have the right to seek to appeal, if they want, to a 3-judge panel that was set up, not by me, was set up to review the claim. BP, to my knowledge, has exercised that right in one single case.
Well, that is inconsistent with information we've received, but we will take that up separately. You also indicated in answer to an earlier question that there's been basically 1% of the claims that are fraudulent. Is that right?
We have received, I think I've got this, we have received what we think are 14,000 fraudulent claims, and we have sent 2,800 to the Department of Justice.
Okay. Regardless, data that we've got from your own website that an auditor and an accountant in my district has collected every day to compare shows that 116,000 of the 331,560 claims processed have been refused payment, which would mean 35% of the claims have been refused payment. Are you, according to your data, are you stating that 35% of those that have been refused payment are because of fraud?
No, not at all. If we have refused claims, it can be for a number of reasons. No documentation, insufficient documentation, ineligible. It might be a claim from, Idaho. I don't know. I'm just throwing this out. Government claims are ineligible. Moratorium claims, unfortunately, are eligible. There are all sorts of reasons that we either deny claims or deem claims to be deficient.
Well, thank you again, Mr. Chairman. According to data, again, collected from your website every day and analyzed independently by an accountant, medical doctor, and also a city official in Gulf Shores, Alabama, 95% of the claims that have been processed and reviewed, 54% have been processed, issued for final payment, but 46% have not received final payment. 69% paid of the quick pay variety that require no additional documentation to process. 30% paid for the final payment. I throw those numbers out to you because basically you would lead us to believe that this has been a success because so many people continue to apply. I think you said 2,000 people a week continue to apply. And yet, is it not true that the burden you have placed on many of these individuals and businesses for additional requests for information, even when they have submitted their claims with certified accountants who have shown the documentation, that there has been a great inconsistency in the payment process, and in fact that more people have not been paid than have been paid?
I don't think there's been great inconsistency. I mean, that's one reason you're promoting, and rightfully so, the notion of the independent audit to get some answers to that question. I think that people that take the quick payment because they don't have any additional documentation to show us or have already been adequately paid by an interim payment during the emergency payment period. I think that I point with pride, frankly, to the fact that overall there's almost $6 billion that's gone out in 1 year, Congressman. I think we're doing something right. And when you say that people are applying at 2,200 new claims, 2,200 claims a week because they're being tricked or deceived, I don't think that's the case at all. I think they see their next door neighbor getting paid, and they're going to file a claim. And they're going to make the same argument and hope that they can get paid as well.
You mentioned the audit. I believe I contacted you in the spring of last year and asked for you to initiate an audit on your own. And I don't believe that the GCCF agreed to do that. Mr. Chairman, we actually had a provision added to the CJS, Commerce, Justice, Science appropriation bill demanding an audit, requiring the Justice Department to do it because the Assistant Attorney General, Mr. Pirelli, who came to our district, came to the Gulf Coast, realized that this was not adding up as it was intended to be. And even the Attorney General, when he was along the Gulf Coast earlier this year, then contacted Mr. Feinberg and said an audit is necessary. So the chairman asked you in his question where the audit is. The truth is the audit has not even begun yet. They've not even named a firm to do the audit. Is that correct?
That is correct. And Congressman, I just want to say I don't speak for the department on this. The department's going to choose the auditor and move at your demand. I only want to point out about that independent audit. It's my understanding, and I mentioned this earlier, that on the one hand, there is a demand that the department move forward with great speed to get this going. Overdue, you would say. Overdue. On the other hand, the department, as I understand it from letters, copies of which I get, there are various public interest groups, lawyers, elected officials in the Gulf who want input into that process. And some of them have just in the last few weeks got to the department with their suggestions. So I think the tension between speed and inclusiveness is partly the reason why there's been a delay in your view.
Thank you.